Speaking of Star Wars, fellow YouTuber and friend of the channel, Dragon Demands, had a question that he wanted us to address. He says here, saw your video privately. 7 months later, do you still think George is fuming with no chance of reconciliation with Ryan Condal? Or are the Star Wars I hate Kathleen Kennedy types overblowing the situations? Most channels are saying they're both right. In regards to George and Ryan Condal patching things up, I hope so, but I don't see it happening.
I mean, I hope so, but I don't see it happening.
Because
I mean, if George has held a grudge this long, as recent as the Collider interview, like, no, I don't think he's going to get any better, and he's just going to move on with his life and start thinking about Dunkin' Egg.
Can I give you my timeline of events?
Okay.
Because I briefly covered it in my video. So I think it was in 2023 where George put out a blog post where he went to the UK and he sat down with Ryan Condal and the writers team for 2 to 3 days trying to iron things out. And I think he walked away from that meeting thinking he made some progress. He goes back home, almost a year passes, he's getting some rough cuts of the episodes. And so far, he's watching episode 1, 2, 3, and 4 in rough cuts. Okay? Because George did like the first half of season 2. Then he starts getting in rough cuts episodes 5, 6, 7, and 8. And he's like, what the fuck is this? This is not what we discussed. Let me turn your attention to one thing to also prove my point. So when Rian Johnson made The Last Jedi, Mark Hamill, who played Luke Skywalker, was vocally on set and off set saying how he doesn't agree with Rian Johnson's choices. Of course, as we all know in The Last Jedi, Luke Skywalker dies. If you go, Preston, I'm going to try to find it for you right now. If you go on YouTube and you look up The Last Jedi premiere, where Rian Johnson is with Mark Hamill and they're together, Mark is visibly upset and astounded. And he looks at Rian Johnson like he's about to kill this guy. My personal theory is when Mark read that Luke was going to die, he complained, and Rian said, no, Luke's not going to die. Don't worry about it. And then Mark saw the film for the first time when it was completed at the premiere, and he was shocked, he was hurt, he felt lied to, and I think that's the emotion he's portraying on his face. And I think that's exactly what happened to George. George sat down with these guys, and they assured him that they weren't going to do this, or they weren't going to do that, and they were going to follow his ideas. And then he left feeling good about that. And then months, maybe a year down the line, they just dismissed everything I said. Okay.
George has his problems with House of the Dragon, and they may be completely different from our problems with House of the Dragon. And yet we think we're on the same team as him. But let's not give ourselves credit. Like, I dislike The Last Jedi for completely different reasons than Mark Hamill. We're only on the same team in the sense that we've disliked the movie, but we disliked it for completely different reasons. So there's no alliance between us. It's the same thing with this George thing. People didn't like a lot of aspects of season 2 of House of the Dragon. I think they're for completely different reasons than George.
That's very fair. By the way, I sent you a screenshot here on do you see it? Look at his face. There's a longer video, and I'll put this up for the audience to see. There's a longer video of it. He looks at Johnson like he's about to fucking strangle him,
fucking kill him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I remember think that Johnson told him some bullshit, and Mark was like, "Okay." He sees the movie for the first time. Boom.
And let's also keep in mind that Mark Hamill is an actor. He knows what he's doing with his face, and he wanted to communicate that. It's almost like farcical how upset he looks. Like if it were me, I would have more of a stone face, and you'd see like some subtlety, and you'd be like, it'd be more like, how everyone takes that Ben Affleck meme, and they like, Ben Affleck's face is actually pretty stone, but they like take a very subtle like movement, and they're just like, oh, he's so sad.
And then put a sad song over it.
Yeah. Here he's overdoing it. He's purposely overdoing it. He wants people to see his face like this, but...
My buddy was like, you sure he's not just high? He might probably did some ketamine before he went up. I don't know. I don't think so. To back up my theory a little bit, again, I do believe it's the same situation. George was probably told, like, hey, yeah, your ideas here, George, are great. We're going to implement them. Don't worry. He goes home thinking that. And then he's slowly starting to see those motherfuckers dismiss every feedback I gave. The reason I think this is because, again, with George's writer friend, Shiran J. Zhao, who put in their blog, For those who thinks he's disrespecting the show writers, how do you think he felt when they have dismissed his feedback in private?
So here's another thing I need to bring up about this. Okay. And this gets into, because I was doing some serious thinking about why D&D got a pass for much huger transgressions than Ryan Condal.
I'm glad you brought that up. My whole thing is that D&D respected him and took some of his ideas, which translate more into season 6, 7, and 8 than we think they do.
Right. You're right. That it may be that D&D were better at managing George.
Yep.
But let's also remember that there's also a different relationship here. When D&D met George and became friends with George, he was a fairly successful writer, but he wasn't rock star untouchable. He wasn't rock star untouchable God yet, right? So I'm not saying George might not have been above them, but they were on more equal ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so when they defied him, and their relationship, when two people meet like that, as closer to peers, they're going to remain closer to peers as the relationship progresses. Now compare this to Ryan Condal, okay? Lifelong Ice and Fire fanboy, essentially comes to George R. R. Martin, his fucking god, and like begs to work with him. Okay? And George at this point, has hundreds of millions of dollars, And so that's the relationship now. Now it's peon speaking to the king, right? And so now when the peon defies the king, it's a bigger insult.
It's more disrespect.
Absolutely. Even though I would argue that Ryan Condal's transgressions are much more are minor compared to D&D's, but D&D was seen more as peers because it was a different time, and Ryan Condal is seen as a fucking serf. Because let's remember that George is going to change over the years. He's going to and keep in mind, like, this is what also, like, I've heard George R. R. Martin bitch about his career and all sorts of stuff, and he knows how Hollywood works. So he once I listened to him speak about Beauty and the Beast. He was the showrunner for Beauty and the Beast back in the late 80s. She ran for 3 seasons, and they told him, okay, well, first of all, Linda Hamilton was leaving the show because of she was having a baby, and they kill her off at the end of season 2. And so now the lead of the show is gone. And so George R. R. Martin is like, okay, well, Vincent, the Beast, he's going to be really upset. And because, people don't get over deaths that quick, and so we've got to like pay proper homage to the fact that, like, Beauty has been killed. And this goes on for a few episodes, and the ratings start plummeting. And they were plummeting anyway because Linda Hamilton's no longer in the show. And the execs say to him, dude, people are getting bummed out. You got to have the character move on with his life and go on to a new plot. And George R. R. Martin's like, well, that doesn't make any sense, but I'm going to do it. The execs do what the execs do. And he did that. And it didn't help, and the show still tanked and was canceled.